Hey, welcome back to Brands Investors Love. I am Mark Stoiber, and I want to introduce you today to a very interesting founder who looked me up at South by Southwest, where I was giving a talk. We didn't actually meet in person there because I didn't get to South by Southwest, but we managed to connect nonetheless. Yosh Miller founded a company called Hadley. And Hadley, in a nutshell, and he's going to correct me, Hadley, in a nutshell, helps people contribute to students' registered in education savings plans. Now, I'm a Canadian, and doing that up here in Canada is incredibly easy, but doing that in the States is quite difficult. So that's what intrigued me about what Yosh was up to. And as we got to know each other, it actually got more and more interesting. So Yosh, how was that? Did I butcher the intro or did I get it right?
That was fantastic, Mark, and thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate you having me today.
So let's dig right. Yeah. Hey, it's my honor, man. I love having interesting people on the show. Let's dig right into it.
Yes,
Inspiration for your company.
yes. So my background's in management consulting for public sector clients. That's what I got my start, and then from there I started working in LA for media and entertainment companies. And at the job I had before I started Hadley, I was working as a strategy executive for two co-CEOs who are Harvard Business School grads, and they run this multi-billion-dollar parent media company, and I got to be their strategy executive. And at the same time, my sister had called me one day and said, I know Hadley's birthday is coming up, but I don't want any more junky plastic toys for Hadley's birthday. And I said, well, why can't I give money towards school fund? And my sister said, you want to just Venmo me money then? And neither of us really knew what an education savings account was. It was this nebulous term. And when I Googled it, it was really confusing. But at the same time, I worked on really hard problems for these two CEOs at this very large parent media company. So
Now, hold on. Can I interrupt just for a second?
yes,
Um, you worked as a high-level executive in a sounds like a fast-moving, pretty dynamic company. How did you get into that? I mean, I apologize if I'm out of line here, but you're about 12 years old.
yes, I'm actually I just had my birthday, so I just turned 13 years old. Um, no,
Wow. When I was your age, I wanted to be a jet fighter pilot, I think. I'm not sure.
no, it was that career journey is very zag zig. A lot of people zig and then zag. I found myself doing a lot of zagging when people zigged. So, for example, I wanted to be in the Foreign Service with the State Department, so I went to college at the School of Foreign Service at Georgetown. And from there, Lehman Brothers fell my senior year, so I went straight into Deloitte Consulting and their federal practice. And actually, I got into the Foreign Service and I moved to LA kind of on a whim because someone hired me to be an internal management consultant at Sony. Excuse the cough. And then from there, I just developed this career in media and entertainment, just thinking through how things get made and partnered together. And what I loved about my role at the company before Hadley was that I got to do the strategic thinking for these two CEOs, but also to the presidents of each business unit. So one of our business lines was Hollywood Reporter and Billboard. And I got to work with the president of Hollywood Reporter and Billboard about what's podcasting. We're on a podcast right now. So can you figure out, again, sorry for the cough.
No, not at all.
Um,
I think you're just getting emotional.
that or allergies. I think it's emotional allergies. Um, so that's the thing is the higher up I got to work with these folks, the more they were like bigger picture. And then through all this type of work, I was able to really unpack the question that they were asking, like, what's podcasting? How do we make money from podcasting? So you have to create the world of what podcasting is and then understand how it parlays into this parent media's company portfolio of media properties.
Mm-hmm.
So I use that same type of mindset to unpack why is this so hard for my sister and I to not know, for my sister and me to not know what to properly save for school? And then how do I send money into that account? And in the background, swimming in my head are all these different business models that have propped up with the technical or streaming revolution as it hits, TV, film production and distribution, as well as digital media content creation and distribution, all these new different types of business models. So um, I started just thinking, how do I save? And it was really confusing. And then while I was about to throw the computer against the wall, it made me realize I know in the background student debt is crippling so many people. And I couldn't not make help but make the connection that this simple research that I thought should be super, super simple, like how do I best save for school and then send money to that person's saving account
Mm-hmm.
for school, that should be a 2-click thing and I'm done and I could go on with my day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was anything but simple and straightforward. And you think, why isn't this easier for everyone? And
Mm-hmm.
the third thing I thought of, so the first thing I thought is this should be easy. The second thing is it's not easy. And now I understand why so many people are crippled by student debt or afraid to take on their top preferred post-secondary path because of the high cost of debt.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing I thought, and it was the one that really moved me to action, is it's quite cruel, I think, to price people out of their best paths. And in the most cynical mindset you could possibly assume, we are losing ourselves when we don't have more and more people around us pursuing their best paths, because they could be nurses, they could be doctors, they could be
Mm-hmm.
electricians in our neighborhood, plumbers, environmental engineers. As we are seeing in the news, there's more and more tornadoes, hurricanes are increasing in severity. We're going to need more environmental engineers to figure out how to build things to withstand, these types of weather events that we've been watching in the news. So I just thought, as a collective
Mm-hmm.
best future, we were barely scratching the surface because so many people, 1 in 2 Americans, are priced out of pursuing their best or any post-secondary path. So really quick, within 1 second, all these three things bubbled up and I knew I had to act.
Now, do you think that it's as much cynical as it is? They talked about the Soviet Union being sort of like a bureaucratic cruelty, where nobody was really cruel on purpose, but you build a system and you regiment the system and you regiment stupidity into the system, and nobody really knows how to unregiment that.
Yes.
And nobody really wants to try that hard to do it because they know it would be such a terrible battle. So this cruelty gets built into the system, and the person to challenge it, which is why you're on the show, the person to challenge it ends up taking a few to the nose, because it's hard to do. You run into all this legacy, this status quo. Tell me about the struggle.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting journey because I don't come from a traditional finance background. I don't come from a traditional technology background, and I certainly don't come from a startup background too. So when I learned that 529 accounts are the go-to way to save for all Americans. So every American, no matter what your age or income can be, can open up this education savings account. And now in our country, any American can open this 529 account and unused money can roll into their Roth IRAs, which is the top way to save for your retirement because the money just compounds tax free. And when you take the money out, it's completely tax free. And we
Mm-hmm.
know that because the Roth IRAs, they cap who can put money into it. You have to make below a certain amount, and that income or that contribution limit each year is around $6,500. But with a 529 account, any American, no matter what their income is, can open this up. They could put up to $85,000 per person per account, and unused 529 funds can now roll into the Roth.
Right.
So there's just it's been, in my mind, hiding in plain sight. So I have been going to the 529 plans, and every 529 plan, by the way, and this is baked into law, that a state must sponsor a 529 plan like Fidelity. But they have to get sponsored by a state, but any American can enroll in 529 plans sponsored by other states. So I've been going to those state sponsors, and I do think cruelty can take the form of apathy. And when you go to these gatekeepers who are the state sponsors themselves, and you say, look, our country overwhelmingly misses the mark of education. And 529s are not just a thing on the Internal Revenue Code that allows for the tax-free growth of education savings, but 529s for me represent turning the American dream into an actual plan.
Hmm.
And so many people don't have that actual plan connectivity. And you go to these states and you are basically holding up a mirror to them and you say, you've been holding onto this policy for a whole generation. About 10% of Americans have the go-to way to save for school. And when you double click into that, they overwhelmingly skew wealthy. The top 5%
Well,
richest
yeah.
out enroll everyone by 40 times. And you're told by some of these states that they make the same revenue managing one $100,000 account as they manage $100,000 accounts, but it's 1/100th of the work for them.
Hmm.
So that begs the question. I got to ask President Clinton this question this year at dinner in Arkansas, is how do you get people to move? How do you get these state sponsors to move? Like, how do you get them to say, I want to give up my oversized slice of a small pie in favor of helping you grow a much bigger pie for this country, in which the state sponsor and their partners get to walk away with still a huge hefty slice of pie. And in absolute numbers, they're walking away with more pie than they would ever have had in the first place.
Yeah.
But then you're also being told, but it's 1/100th of the work if we just focus our outreach on wealthy people because we make our revenue. It's all asset-based revenue. So why go after lower or middle income families because they can't put in as much money into their education savings as wealthy people who are best positioned. So that is the system that I am getting to change today. I am
It
making.
sounds to me like a wonderful plank on an election platform too. That I even up in Canada where it's relatively easy, even I understand that. You know, you focus on 1% and because you're lazy and you manage that and you make just as much money as if you focused on 100% smaller pieces.
Mhm.
What a wonderful election plank. I mean, to say these people are being frozen out because a few bureaucrats want to take a long lunch.
Yes.
Wow. And that's your noble battle. So talk to me about how Hadley's doing.
So Hadley's doing well. I am a first-time founder. I'm also double underrepresented. So it is a journey because there is no playbook, and you have to go by your gut, and you have to go by, quite frankly, the values that your family and your community taught you, imbued in you, and you go with that. You lead with your internal compass. And by the way, there's so much rejection. So at some point, you have to look into that internal compass and say, is this thing still working? Is this right? But then, fortunately, I found it's the right cadence of the right reinforcement at the right times. You meet people like yourself, you meet people who care and who want to help. And those are the people that remind you that you're on the right path. So building Hadley has been, I think, the best use of my time, energy, and talents. It's
Hmm.
gotten me to meet, like I mentioned, some of the most incredible people I've ever met. I've gotten to have dinner with two different presidents this year, one in Arkansas, President Clinton, and one with President Bush in Dallas. And I got to meet Mrs. Bush. And you learn really incredible lessons from them too. You
Hmm.
learn about family and how it's, you can't, if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together and preferably go with, family and friends you love because they give you that space and that confidence to take really big swings. And especially if you miss it, you get even more love. It's
Hmm.
okay to miss it and to strike out, but it's really not okay to not take the bat and never try.
Hmm.
So I'm having a great time changing a $430 billion system that's only accessed at 10% level, mostly by people who are best positioned to pay for school. And when you see who's using the app, from time to time, I'll Google folks who I get the good fortune of helping them figure out their most advantageous plan. And I'll share with you a woman from my home state I found of Florida. She's a McDonald shift manager and she's using Hadley. She dutifully lists out everything she does as a McDonald shift manager on her LinkedIn. And she has the same savings account that my own niece Hadley has. And that's why I built this, is to give the same type of access to help and a tool, by the way, for all families to quickly find their most advantageous way to save for school. And then here's the tool part, is that I wanted to be able to put money into my account when my sister couldn't, because my sister has all these early family costs. And this isn't specific to just one family. This is so universal that on average, parents open up these accounts when their kid turns 7 because they have early family costs like diapers, daycare, doctor visits.
Mm-hmm.
But why hasn't it been thought of to build a technology that is so much more empathetic, that lets people fund your kids' education or your own education savings account? Remember, there's no age limit. So if you never got the good fortune of going of after high school, going to get college or career training, and you want to go back in your 30s or 40s, you can open a 529 account for free, put $0 into it, and along the way, have family and friends or yourself put $5, $10 here and there, and you could get that pharmacy technician role.
I remember when my boy was born, I was working in Toronto at an ad agency, and just to show you how far this can go, they actually gave us our first contribution to his RESP when he was that big. And that was the company, right? That's how easy it was. They actually got a hold of my bank because obviously they did my payroll, and they just started an RESP and they put the money into it without me even knowing about it.
That's what Hadley does. That's what Hadley does.
That's how easy it should be, where you go, hey, congratulations, you just got a promotion. We stuck $500 into your kid's education fund, and you're like, well, that's really cool. I never saw the money, so I never missed the money, and it just accrues because it's getting compounding interest. It's invested. No brainer. Now, I before we go, this is way too short for you, but I just want to hit on one more big point: being an underrepresented person as a founder. Unpack that and how that works when you're can you actually leverage that? Is it possible? The struggles. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it's tough. And what I found when I've met other founders is, especially I look at different founders, and some of them have hit home runs, but a lot of them have been born on third base.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, I come from Florida. I grew up in Parkland, Florida. I'm a product of the public school system there. And I think how being an underrepresented founder comes into play for me, there's definitely some headwinds, but I have a lot of tailwinds. The headwinds are that some people are just quite frankly dismissive of you, and you're just boxed out of conversations that you just want to get into, and it's very frustrating and maddening. You get a lot of rejections, and when you have these VC calls or investor calls, you have to remember the investor on the other side of the table has their own journey too, and that journey might not have included working with people that were different than them.
Mm-hmm.
For the tailwinds of being underrepresented, and I'll share this with you, I grew up in Broward County, and in the Florida public school system, I was called faggot every year on the walk homes from the bus and the kids in the neighborhood. And I was called faggot until high school, when they started calling me valedictorian, because I was the first in my class at Stillman Douglas with over 1,400 kids in my grade freshman year. And I didn't know what a valedictorian was, because I thought they were lining up for their class ring, not a rank. And it was weird to me that they would rank us, but I thought to myself, I think I got all A's, and I think I took the hardest schedule possible. And I'm not smarter than the tip of anyone. I just can work harder than anyone. And the reason why I work so hard is because I was so grateful to be called something other than faggot. And if it meant valedictorian, I was going to work as hard as I could to keep that because it was just something that was not faggot. That was so hurtful to me. And then now, how I work on Hadley, it's very reminiscent of that tenacity that there's no choice. Like people who never had to deal with being boxed out or excluded or being laughed at in a room of people and there was nowhere else to go. I've been there. I did Boys State for Florida. And again, there I was called faggot as well. No one, like, it's really tough. But if you channel it the right way, that energy cannot be made in a lab. And that energy can't be born if you've only known privilege or ease. So I definitely take that and I bring it into this energy that I am moving aspects of this very large 529 industry that is very antiquated, that
Hmm.
no one had thought to reimagine it in a way that would be more inclusive, that would facilitate social contributions or contributions from employers or brands. So I take that and I'm very grateful for my journey. I like to zag, I'll say it again, I'll zag when people zig. And that kind of perspective only comes from people who typically I think are underrepresented.
I love it. What a great note to finish on, man. You're an inspiration.
Well, thank you, Mark, again for having me. It's very
And I love too that you're part of the Brands Investors Love group too, because I keep meeting such awesome people here, and the one undertone that seems to go through everyone, whether it's speaking with you or investors like Katie Dunn, there seems to be folks seem to have a bee in their bonnet on the one hand, and they seem to have this determination that comes from somewhere other than a school book, and that determination is to make the world a better place. So they've been like Katie, boxed out, they've been shunned, and they said, you know what? Hell with it. I'm going to make the world a better place. And that energy is what fuels me. And I think it's an incredible advantage for you at Hadley. So hats off to you, man.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you for lending your platform and letting me amplify this message around helping each other or yourself save for our best future together. And appreciate you.
No, it's awesome, man. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you in a bit.